I'll be like, oh yeah. But that'll be later. Right now we're gonna have, you know, just normal physics boxes. Nothing too insane. Six. And something we could do is we could actually do some of that here. Why don't we just go ahead and do it just to have an example at least. Smash Spidey into every available surface. That's so mean. Why would you do that? So what are we going to use? Let's use this crouch box. That's what, at 1.5? That's not very good. What if we use his 3 box? We could use his sitting box of 2.6. Yeah, okay, we'll use his sitting box. There we go. That looks good. You definitely have the right woof to it. Yeah, that was one of the things. I was playing when we were first talking about working on the game. He let me play some old version of Dashkin in Flash, and you'd be running along, and then you'd slam into a rock, and just the sound and the crunching and the animation, and they had Spidey's little head that would get more and more messed up, kind of like the Doom guy when he gets more bloodied and messed up on screen. Except it was Bitey, and he's like got his skull is just fractured and screwed up, and you're just like, oh. It was like I was playing it, and I was just like, man, I feel so bad for this character. That's actually the secret to Brackenwood. Adam actually absolutely hates Bitey, and Bitey is like the personification of like his father or something. And he's just getting back against it every single time. He's like, oh yeah, we'll make this cool character, and then we'll have horrible things happen to him. It's like, oh, this is so mean. That looks about right. Always change his hitbox. Throw B. So he's got multiple throws that he was experimenting with. Alright, cool. Much more in fact. Let's see. Nothing too insane going on here. That's all correct, I believe. And some of this will give Adam a reference when he comes in to like fill in these things and finalize them. If all the rigging's already hooked up, it should give him a much more... Like once you do the roughs and then you rig it up and all that stuff, and then you have like a little box to stay within, usually, at least as far as I understand in a lot of creative processes, if you say, well, you can do anything, then you get a little paralyzed and you're not sure where to start. But if you give them any starting point, you're like, all right, think of an animal. And So you're like, I don't know what to think. And you're like, think of a species of whale, and then immediately something jumps into your head. For me, it's blue whales. So there's, you know, the more specific you can get, sometimes the more it can help. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but cool. Guy is in there. The DS throw H. I was like, why isn't it showing up? It's like, because you're on the wrong frame, dumbass. And one might say, Kirk, you're an engineer, why didn't you just write a script to go through every single one of these animations and set it to what you wanted it to begin with, and why are you going through and entering the same damn numbers into everything? And a lot of that has to do with I want to see how they all fit, so I'm kind of forcing myself to go through all of Adam's animations and kind of get it slowly fed into my brain. So while it is tedious and time consuming, this is also stuff that I haven't looked at. So it serves a double purpose for all that. Climbing's going to be interesting. Yeah, he's got the pivot points set over on the wall, which we don't need, so... That's actually obnoxious that the pivot point is set right there. So I think I'll just write a note here to Adam that says the climbing animations should use the physics box to determine the wall, not the pivot. And I think what I'll do is I'll move the pivot over here by like a negative 1.5, and let's do that. So there's a for climbing, pivot is at negative 1.5, negative 6. The position of the box is going to be .92, so 0.92 plus 1.5. Excuse me, it should be at 2.42. And the same thing, scale of the box should be, what, 4.6 still. So that's at least there, so we should be going negative 2.42 and then negative 1.6, 1 and 4.6. That doesn't necessarily look right either, does it? Can we do the 2.4? No. Well, I'm gonna at least just keep it consistent then. I'm gonna say to him that he should probably just stay within this box instead of making a new little system for it. So it looks like it's got the right height. I don't want to mess with everything all at once. That should be good. Should be close enough. Though what we would want is actually this box to be closer. So why don't we can move the pivot another, we can do it like 1.5. If we added 0.5 to this, we can't write formulas in here, so that's 1.92. Alright, that looks okay. And what we'll do is we'll just have this at 1 west, and I'll just change that. So that looks okay. It's not perfect, it should be moved up and all that stuff, but I think it's more important. Probably want to move the animation down when he does it. -1, and then -6. Alright, Karakan, go get the important stuff, which is food. This is entering climbing, so yes, we definitely want his pivot to be set to that location. Six. That's looking good. Climb E. I think I've already rigged this one up. Let's just make sure. Yeah, looks good. So what is this? This is a somersault, our pickup. So he's trying to pick something up off the ground while running around. So we should set our standard pivot on this one. So that's 0, -6, and then all the rest. So 2, 6, 1. Where did this thing go? There it goes. Cool. Land idle. So he's landing. Yeah. Bam. There you go. That's how you land in a rough animation. You just nod your head. Good times. Let's make sure all of our stuff is properly set for it. -11.6. This will also help Adam keep the height of Bitey consistent. He's got a little bit of a guide. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. I don't know anything about animating other than you're supposed to have frames, right? It's about frames. So what is this animation? It is stumbling. So he's... Okay, so he's probably like running through brambles or like getting... This is going to be the animation that plays when you get hit by something when you're running, is what it looks like. So we should definitely try to keep it as consistent as possible with the rest of the running animations. So looks like Adam also, yeah, he started drawing Bitey a little bit taller at some point. Or the pivots are just changed for some of these things. Either way, it happened. Why is this one wrong? Yeah, -11.6 is what it should be. Interesting. Oh no. Wham, wham, wham. I can imagine this is Bitey in a tumble dryer. So probably again he'll be running when this happens. So we probably want to keep it as consistent as possible. So, yeah. There we go. Back with food. Very good. I'm probably gonna have to go get food myself here. But I wanna finish up rigging everything before I do so. Oh man. This is Bitey in Las Vegas playing in one of the wind machines. So let's see if we have to adjust his pivot at all. Doesn't look like it, not too much. Yeah, he does actually have something that falls all the way down there, so... Well, we'll be playing with it. See, that's kind of his standard running hitbox. So if he's doing the Sonic spin, then he'll at least be able to run straight out of that into a running animation. And this is him jumping. So yeah, the standard position if we can do it. Is that the right spot? No. What am I doing? Alright, let's get this done. Looks good. And the cool thing is once we got this all set up, then we can spend another like hour rigging it up inside of the frickin' animation system that I have, which is not very fun right now. So this is the fun part for the next 4 hours for me. This is rising. So the question is, should we use the rising pivot, which is at -2.4? Absolutely not. Alright. One, 4.6. Because we also need to basically tell the game which animations it can play at certain times, and we were going over, and it's basically depending upon your speed, you'll want to be playing different animations. I mean, that seems obvious, but we'd like to have the movement controllers actually figure that out pretty nicely for us, as opposed to having to put in a bunch of hand-coded, like if you're running and you're running it between these speeds, then play this animation specifically. We'd rather just be able to say, you know, for all characters, if you're at your running speed, then play this running animation, and not have to go code stuff out, because if we start adding something else, how many still to go? I'm not even gonna look at that. Not gonna look at it. Because if we play the running animation and we want to play like kind of a sub-running animation, like we've got that Bitey where he's like galloping backwards, we also kind of want to play those animations too. So we don't want to have to like go code that out to be like, well, there's a chance when this frame ends that you also play this other animation. and to actually, tell the game and organize data into, well, these are the animations for these things, and these are the different levels of that. Organizing the animations into that set is actually a very tedious operation because there's no way to automate it. You just have to go do it by hand. And the way that you do that in Unreal, the data structures are not nice for that. I'll pull it up later. But it's basically you just claw your eyes out while doing it, but once it's done, right? It's one of those things. It's like I remember this one designer on Dragon Age Legends who had to go through every quest in the entire game one week and fix a whole bunch of stuff in them. And he's basically just staring at 40,000 lines of XML, and he's got the 1,000-yard stare like, this is my life now. I'm basically a regex for the next week. But somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it. Like, we had a crappy database set up, so on Dragon Age Legends. So when stuff got screwed up, like if the quest line ended improperly, everyone who got to that quest would all of a sudden be broken forever, because the ending quest needed to hook into the next quest, and if there was an error with that, basically you would get to a quest and then you would never get the next quest. So I think this happened maybe like, you'd think, okay, QA is going to go check the last quest, every single time we release an update. That seems obvious, like QA is going to go play the game up until the end of the game, right? Well, we're releasing weekly content for Dragon Age Legends. It's a Facebook game, and we updated every week, every Wednesday, which was kind of a running joke, which was we release the game every week. We release an update every Wednesday. Don't play until Friday. Because, Thursday was like fixing all the things that we found out. So when you're releasing every week, like QA, it's impossible for QA to test everything. Even with good automation tools, there's always going to be a producer that comes in at 5 p.m. on Wednesday right before the release, and it's just like, I want you to merge this thing forward from prod. I want you to move this piece of code forward anyway. Yeah, it hasn't been fully tested, but I am totally sure we won't break anything. So we'd end up with like a bunch of people on that Wednesday breaking their whole quest states, and somebody would have to basically go through and figure out what's broken, and then when they figured out what was broken, they'd have to go write a script to go through the database and fix everybody who was busted. And it was like a custom database script every single time because the quests were always different. And of course, this sounds like a job for an intern, right? So we'd have these interns that we got, and we'd basically throw them in the production database writing a migration script for it. And we had some actually really good interns. You might think, production database interns, this is oil and water, don't do this. They actually did a pretty good job. And, we always had updates and, backups in case they screwed something up, so that worked out pretty well. They got production triage experience that they probably should not have ever been trusted to get, but some of those guys are really smart. One of them, I think, turned out to, he said screw it to game development, just went and became a brain surgeon. Which is kind of like, that's the ultimate like, you know what, fuck you guys, I don't want to be a construction worker, I'm gonna go be a brain surgeon. You're like, well, good luck, man. And then you see him 3 years later, he's a brain surgeon. You're like, yeah, you were right. Damn. Alright, so this should be his swimming box. His swimming box is 1 by 1.5, so we're going to keep it like that. Should be 1, and that should be 1.5. So let's see if that still works. Yep, pops up perfectly. Very good. Gallivanting off to be a surgeon. Yeah. We actually really trusted that guy, and we gave him access to one of the production services, even though he was no longer working for us anymore, because it was one of those games that we just didn't have the manpower to keep up to date. So we were just like, because he really liked the game that we were kind of overseeing, and it was not viable for us to actually keep somebody fixing that game. Just like if we didn't give him access to go fix it when like on his spare time, we would have just had to shut it down. So that's pretty cool. You can actually find some pretty reliable, awesome people in the world if you're not dicks to them. Alright, let's see, this should be negative 11.6. And we're going to do our 1 and 1.5. Now, why is this a little bit different? Alright, it's like a super rough animation, that's why. Which the whole principle of not being dicks to people is kind of how I ended up working with Adam, because he needed somebody to fix his server at one point. I just did it, and then that's kind of how we eventually started working together. Yeah, reliability. Yes, that's also true. Not the gray goo. And that was one of the things that, like, even working at a supermarket, like, your managers would be super unhappy with people, really just if they weren't reliable, because, you know, it's just bagging groceries and doing other stuff, etc., but it's more important that you were there than that you did everything perfectly all the time. Because you can always work with somebody who's going to tell you the truth about stuff. Like, you know, like even when I was running my teams. Alright, so we're going to want to change into his water hitbox. And this was also... We're going to need to move his pivot when he disappears. So we're actually going to want to... We're going to want to move the pivot. Are we? I'm trying to imagine exactly what this will look like. We don't really want to move the pivot. We actually want to... We almost want to do the reverse of what we would normally do here. Like, we want to start the pivot, like, over here, and then end it over here. So what happened is, like, your character wouldn't move. Well, I'm not going to fret over it too much. I'm just going to set it right here, and it's going to look weird. Because if the pivot is set right here, then Bitey's head is going to resurface right where? Right here. Which I'm not... How could we fix that a little bit better? I have to think about that. So let's think about it. Because if we move the pivot over here, basically what's going to happen is it's just going to move the animation. It's not going to move the character. And we kind of want to do the opposite. We want to like move the character. We're just going to have to do that in code. Like that's just going to have to happen. So I mean, we could create like another symbol or something that's like have a pivot, but then also have like a new position pivot or something, where, I mean, maybe you'd call that a pin or something. You like pin his location over here after this animation. You know, or attempt to pin his location over there. There might be something we want to look at, so I'm gonna take a note on that. We may want a new location pin rigging object for our animations. So we'll see if that makes any sense to Adam when we get back to it sometime. Anyway, so this is exiting the water. So we're going to go from his water state to his non-water state. So let's start by setting our pivot properly. And our initial state should be our swimming. And that was the other cool thing about working at a grocery store there was people would come back, like you might have some people who worked at the grocery store in college or something like, I mean in high school or something like that, and then they come back from college for, you know, for the summer or something. So you'd have people who would actually kind of be, they'd come back and they'd just get their old job back for, you know, a couple months. And that were because they were reliable employees. They're like, hell yeah, we're gonna keep you around. And a lot of people like that would also actually get shipped off to the military, right? And then they come back from their tour in Afghanistan or something like that, and they get their job right back. Just walk right in. So it's cool to have, you know, if you work right, people do take care of each other, I think. But then there's always those butthead bosses that don't care about their employees. Just don't work for those people. Just quit. Because they're going to screw you in other ways. Alright, let's see. Idle 2. This is dashing. He looks like a spirit. Well, we're still gonna need the same physics box, because if he's going super fast, he should still run into walls at the same height, right? Like, he may be bending light, but he's not breaking space and time. And if he is breaking space and time, then we're gonna need to, I mean, that's also another thing. This is maybe the super dash sort of thing. So the question would be, should he have a smaller one? Yeah, you only work for one employer in your whole life? Wow. So let's take a look at this. We might be able to do something to make this interesting. Because if we make it full height, then if he runs into a wall, he runs into a wall. But it looks like he's actually, you know, he's kind of doing a Naruto run sort of thing. Like, he's not actually standing at full height when he's doing this. He's still, you know, his legs are along the ground, obviously, but his head is not. He's crouch running. So we should probably pick one of his other heights, maybe his sitting height of 3, and see if that more accurately encompasses what he is physically. So yeah, we'll just try his sitting height. And that's the same as creep, looks like. So yeah, so there is a, I mean the other height we could look at would be his 1.5 height, but I think that's going to be way too low. Yeah, that's too low. So we'll just try 3. What, do you just not have a job then, Carrot King? Or you're doing other things? I guess other people do other things all the time. And I'm just used to the American system of your dad throwing you out of the house and telling you to get a job. Stop being a freeloader. I don't know. But it's different all over the place. What is this? Submerged idol. Where would that be? That'd be like water? We've got water, exit, enter, idle. Yeah, I don't see anything. What is this? Mess. Crawl. Drawing, watch crowds. Blah. I don't know what he's doing. I don't have any idea. This is submerged idol right here. Why can't I see it then? Why can't I see you? Freelancer all the time? Alright. That makes sense. Well, a submerged idol regardless, if I can't see it, I know where it should be. It should be at 0, -6, and we should have the bounding boxes be the water boxes. So just because we can't see our enemy doesn't mean we don't know how to defeat it. Yeah, well, I until recently have always been working for the man in some shape, form, or fashion. Yeah, there's Bitey. There he is. He's just this little. I guess that is really funny. Is that literally supposed to be Bitey? Just he's submerged, right? So he's just a little puddle. Well, we can move this. Where the hell's the translate tool? Alright, there. He should be like right. He should be right there. There he is. There's our hero. It is just a bubble. Just bloop. Cool. Alright. So let's take a look. We got water enter here. He's just sinking in quicksand. The 80s called. They want their tropes back. Alright, well in this case we're going to start with our running. And we'll go from running to our water. So yeah, we'll just set our water stuff here. I don't know if I'd ever be comfortable doing freelance work. Just seems a little bit too unreliable to me. Like I wouldn't know where everything comes from, and as usually an organized person, that would just stress me the hell out. I mean, working for myself is different, where I know where my paycheck's coming from right now. I don't have a paycheck right now. You know, that's easy for me to understand and deal with. You know, I could plan around not having money. That's not a problem. It's exhausting, yeah. Well, then we're on the same page on that one. This is, what is this? Water enter? This is a fast water enter, so we should just start with our water box. There's also an argument to be made that we should never have attempted to rig our characters outside of just the game and just dealt with, you know, the one frame animation boxes, or for physics just been like throw a box on the player and just done it that way. And people who say that might not be wrong. We might actually switch to something more similar to that later. I'm not used to share work. It's also a lot more comfortable just knowing somebody else is handling everything. Like, if you're working in a place like Amazon or Electronic Arts, you're just like, yeah, well, you know, who's worrying about healthcare and who's worrying about blah and blah. And you're like, oh yeah, it's just, you know, HR is dealing with that. What health plan do you have? You got whatever the hell your employer has gotten. There you go. What about taxes? Oh, I'll just tell them to withhold it, and then at the end of the year I'll just get a refund. Don't have to worry about that. And the same thing right now, at least for my business. It's like, oh, am I paying taxes? Well, no, because I'm not making any money. So it's simple, you know. I don't have to worry about it. It's like, what healthcare you got? Well, you got whatever healthcare you paid for, and that's all you that's all you get. Deal with it. What am I doing? This is a -6. This is stuck. Bitey is stuck in something. Are we gonna have bear traps? Is that gonna be the thing? There are people hunting Bitey for his skin. They're gonna skin Bitey and make a Bitey head. I'd be okay with that. Probably have some really good stats. Alright. 11.6. It's always. I'm gonna have that drilled into my head. I'm gonna have a nightmare about 11.6. 11.6. Alright, so he's gonna go into his crouch animation. So I need to set up for crouch. Stuck in bramble? Okay, that makes sense. This is him getting out of the bramble. Yeah, so he's going into like that crawling thing. I saw that in the Flash game, where basically you're supposed to do a slide through a bramble tunnel, and getting unstuck from the brambles is getting to where you would be if you had been sliding, so he crashes down under it. It's going to be one of those things where it's your hitbox that's actually messing with it, not your other box. we'll start with our regular height box, and we'll switch to our crouch box. Alright, so negative 0.92, 1, and our small crouched box is 1.5, so it's the same as our water box. Yeah, that looks right. But there is a problem here, which is Bitey's crouch box. If you remember, the pivot is not on his butt, it's on his head. So, at the end of this animation, we need his head to be where his butt is, basically. So what we need to do is we need to set up stop motion keyframe here. I'm going to move this over, and he was at 2, so this should be going at 2. So we want to set this to, this should be at 0, this should be at -6, that should again be at 0, -6, so this should be a stop motion keyframe, and this should be a motion keyframe. And this should be at 1.92 east, so 1.92. No, it's not 1.92, it's 1.92. .08 is what it should be. So yeah, so he'll do this, and then basically he starts sliding backwards. His sprite will start sliding backwards. So he's going to stick his butt out, basically, and be in the same spot. So that looks fine. And that was the last one, so let's make sure that we are all completely saved up and all that fun stuff, because we don't want to have to do that again. And let's go export him. Just delete all the items for him. Make sure we're all synced up. And then we're going to export all of his animations. Actually, let's just export one. Something real obvious if it's correct or not. Like, why don't we just export his unstick that we just did? So what do we got here? These are our frames. And these are our frames in code. Let's take a look at our pivot. Pivot looks like it's at the right spot. Width and height look okay. And then around frame 20 or whatever, we should be changing our X coordinate. And it moves over there. Okay, and let's boot up Unreal, and let's try importing this character here real quick. It should just import only one thing, which is this flipbook. And you can see its pivots moving as it's supposed to. Let's go to Bitey and let's add his animation. This is the... Let's just set it to the... Not the idle, this is... We don't even have this animation, do we? So we'll just add it to maybe the special, stationary special array. And this is what I'm talking about with like this system is just like not set up very nicely whatsoever. And that does look proper. Like, yeah, it looks like the import worked exactly as it should. I'm happy with this. You know, he's moving there and then he'll move over to the right and all that. So cool, what we're going to do then is we're going to make sure to basically save all of this stuff. And we're going to export the whole damn thing. And this could take a little while. Let's see exactly how long. Yeah, thank you. It's always nice when those things actually work, kind of how you would expect them to work, and not just fall apart. Because when I re-rigged up FatSack stuff, all of this stuff got completely screwed and I had to spend an hour or so, if you remember, re-rigging. Well, not re-rigging, but fixing the export script to fix all the little things, and like the constants changed for how wide things were supposed to be, and it was a real pain in the butt. So it's good to see that the replaced rigging, the new rigging objects that Adam put in, they're at least consistently different, and not just inconsistently different, which would have been a giant pain in the ass. So let's see what else is going on here. It is Saturday. God, I keep thinking it's Friday because I woke up when it was Friday. Did I wake up when it was Friday? No, I woke up when it was actually Saturday. I remember because I woke up and Adam was still on stream. And that means it was Saturday, not Friday. because I pretty much skipped Friday. Like I was up super late. I like streamed for like 5 hours and then did a whole bunch of stuff around the house and all that, and then came back and then streamed Battle Brothers for 6 hours and then went to bed after a while there at like 2 in the afternoon or something. So I woke up this morning. And I imagine Adam is totally finished. Otherwise, he's a madman staying up till 3 in the morning programming. Headless. Alright, so he switched over to Dead Cells before going off. That makes sense. And the big thing here is basically that I should actually turn off the syncing device at the moment. That basically Harmony has to go through every frame and render out every frame for us for every animation and all that crazy stuff, and it just takes time to do it because, you know, it's something. And we're exporting all the frames at a certain size, and we can change all the sizes and all that stuff. And not only does it have to render these sprites out, but it also has to then composite them into sprite sheets efficiently. Harmony does do sprite sheet compositing for us, so we don't have to worry about that too much. And it's also got some cool stuff in here with like the reuse of frames. Like if 2 frames are almost the same in terms of pixels, we can actually change the threshold at which we export. So if 2 frames are like literally the same except for one of the pixels had like a little blue blur on it or something, we can actually tell Harmony to, well, just export 1 frame. It's close enough, which can be good for games, you know, especially if, you know, we're using like tweens and animation frames and stuff like that that are just slightly different. Sometimes it just doesn't matter, because it just doesn't matter. Especially if you take a character that's super detailed and meant to be blown way up, and then you also want to re-export it really, really small, and all of a sudden there's very small alterations or something. Because you're using vector art or something, there's always a little change. It can just ignore that for us, so it's not a problem. Let's see, I'm not sure how long this export actually takes, which is why I'm timing it here. Because we did reduce the resolution. We were exporting it at 1920 by 1080, but only, you know, we're only using a certain small portion of that canvas. But it was having to render all the empty pixels anyway. So he skipped this day for working on Bob's. He's been working on Bob's like, I'm not exactly sure how his schedule is, but sometimes basically Adam disappears from the face of the planet because he's got so much Bob's Burgers work to do. So it's pretty funny. But I'll always be here working on the game. That's my job. But I really do like using Harmony for the animation stuff. Looks like it's a lot better than like Flash and the rest there. When we were running around with Flash, because we were doing Dragon Age Legends in Flash and some other games there in Flash.